sooner than that.
No, we got Sabrina got here on time.
Yay!
Yay! So we're going to let the audience kind of build up a little bit before we go ahead. Mimi Nee's here. Mimi's always here.
Okay. Hi, Mimi.
Mimi, this is Sabrina. I wanted to talk about before we got going. I found a marvelous new a books called A Series About Crohn's. That's what you can find it that way. The Iris's name, and I thought that can't be somebody's real name. That's her name.
I just looked at that. I'm like, who made that up?
She lives in New Zealand. She lives in New Zealand. She's written this. I'm not talking about the lady on the screen. I'm talking about a series of books I just found. But they start with they start with a woman whose husband has just done her dirty in a divorce, which is part of all cozy mysteries, I think. I don't think they make them any other way. And she lives in London, and she decides she's going to a town called Myrtlewood on the far east part of England on the coast. She used to go there with her grandmother, and apparently her family had some connection to it. But what you find out through the series of books, and the way I found them is on YouTube. You can find them where they'll read them to you. And there's 5 books, and it starts with the first lady going there and finding this weird little village, and then finding out that she's part of a series of Crohn's. There's 4 of them. Actually, there's 5 that need to be woken up so the divine goddess can come forward. And the group that's out to get them is called the Crimson Robe Society. And they are a bunch of very monk-like guys running around trying to stop them using their way of doing magic. Fascinating series, but what's really fascinating is all the main characters in this, all the women are 63 years or older.
Oh, interesting. I guess the writer must be.
No, she's not. She's like older. 35.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. But it's interesting because I've studied a lot of the earth mythology and the elemental mythology of that part of England. And these women even get their own dragons, guys. I mean, it's really fun. But it's so engaging. I use these sort of novels to fall asleep. I had to turn this one off because I couldn't go to sleep.
Oh, wow. So this is pretty action packed, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's not just a bunch of little old ladies sitting around knitting socks. It's not like the Miss Marple. I was looking for a Hercule Poirot or Miss Marple kind of thing, which will definitely always put me to sleep. But these guys don't.
That's interesting. I read David Baldacci at night.
Yes.
And unfortunately, he does not put me to sleep either because I keep reading. And then I'm like, just one more chapter. And it's 2 a.m. and I have to start work at 7 a.m. And I'm like, why did you do that?
No, I did it because you wanted to hear it. But anyway, so the books I'm talking about, just to give for the people who are arriving late, it's a book series about Crohn's. The author's name is Iris Beaglehole. How you will ever forget her name, I do not know. You can look it up. They're on Audible, they're on Amazon, they're at bookstores, and it's really cool. She's from New Zealand. She's written over 30 magical novels, they say.
Well, I'm just going to have to look up Ms. Beaglehole.
I know.
Name.
Well, her name's worth points anyway.
Well, there you go. Well, she might have done that name on purpose, you know.
Well, they presented it. They said this is her name in the autobiography I read on her. So maybe she legally changed it. I don't know. I can't imagine. First of all, if my name was Beaglehole, I think I'd find another name to give my children. And then, and I don't think I'd call my daughter Iris, but Iris is a pretty name. But if you want to read a book that brings together a lot of the elements that we feel in our lives, and I know I read a lot of women in their 60s, 50s, and 60s who are becoming aware of how much bigger the world is. And here these women are in a tiny little village in England, in touch with all the elementals, and they have the family history of witchcraft.
Nice.
And the inheritance of it. And the thing is, I met a woman, and they used to call them the wise old women, the wows in England. And my second husband was British. He was born in London, but by the time we went over to visit his family when he was almost 70 years old, his siblings lived from Bournemouth to York. So we stayed all over the country, and we stayed in all their houses, and we stayed in big cities. We stayed in tiny little, they lived in tiny little villages. Well, the littlest one, the smallest place they lived, was outside of York. And that's where Waddy and his wife Irene lived. And they lived in a weaver's cottage. And the cottage they lived in looked like someone had made a snowball and thrown it up on the hill. And except it was a big snowball that you could live in. And that cottage had been built before America was even a country. I mean, it goes back that far. And this was the real wool weaving. And that's what weavers' cottages were. They literally were, weavers were not in big mills yet. They wove the fabric in their own homes. And they had updated it and upgraded it and stuff. But it was it was treacherous. Walking up the hill to get to this place, it was scary. And it ended up, Irene's family had always lived there for centuries. And when I first got there, I had a bronchitis. I picked up something awful on the airplane. My lungs were full. I thought, oh my God, my 4 weeks in England, I'm going to be wheezing and coughing on everyone. And Irene came into me the first night we were there, and she said, now, darling, she said, you drink half this bottle and go to sleep. And I looked at Bill, and he said, I've heard she knows what she's doing.
Drink it.
So, and I don't want you dead, and I don't want to be stuck with a toddler. Well, she was 4. I don't want to be stuck with a 3 to 4 year old in England on a tour trying to get your body out of here. So I drank it. The next morning I woke up and I was almost completely clear.
Wow.
I had never had anything cure me like that. And so and the next morning when we came down to breakfast, she said, now, dear, you have to drink the last half of that bottle. And so I did. And it went away completely. I was cured in less than 24 hours. And so my husband, this has nothing to do with psychic profiles. This has a whole lot to do with the book series I'm reading, that I was talking about, that it's a book about Crohn's. Anyway, she said, oh, I'm the healer in our town. And when I was there, the pharmacist showed up with a lot of brown bottles for her to fill with the stuff she knew how to take out of the hills. Bill and my husband and Waddy, his brother, went to the local pub, and it's still enough in the rurals of England that at that time, this was 30 years ago, you didn't go into the pubs at night in the late afternoon if you're a woman. That's not what women did.
Oh.
So Irene said, oh, we'll stay here. We'll have some tea and stuff. And then I said, how do you do what you do? And she said she learned from her mother, and her mother had learned from her mother. They went back generations. They were the woman healers in that village. And people would come to the door when we were in the house knocking, saying, Irene, do you have it for me? And she'd have what they wanted. She took me out. This is why they stayed in this bizarre little cottage. She took me out and walked me through the woods, and it was just like the medieval drawing. She had a sort of straw hat she wore. She was long and slender. She had a basket that was a wicker basket that she had woven herself, and she gathered things out of the woods. I have no idea what she was taking from where, because this was in March. And she said, oh, things are coming back, and da-da-da-da-da. And she said, oh, I like to get the fresh green leaves on this because they're better for this and that. She knew. It was like talking to a compendium of that stuff. And
wow.
I always remember Irene and her taking me through the woods and how fast she cured me. And I said, well, what's going to happen now? And she said, we never had daughters. They only had sons. And none of my daughter-in-laws want to learn to do this. So I met the last woman that would be the wise old woman that knew how to get medicine out of the woods.
Wow. Wow. Well, I believe pharmacy used to be called herbology.
Yes.
And then they switched it to pharmaceuticals. And there are so many things from the earth and the planet that we could use naturally that cure a multitude of things, but you can't make a lot of money on them. So
no, you can't.
The pharmacy industry wants nothing to do with that. Big pharma.
Not only do they want nothing to do with it, this is for entertainment purposes only. If you watch a lot of the alternative people, I was watching a guy talk about how 16 peptides that they had made illegal. The pharmacies went in and got the FDA to say, this should be under our control, and they made it illegal. In July, all 16 of those will be freed up so that compounding pharmacies can use them again.
Good.
And my whole thing, trust me, I'm going to get to psychic profiles, I promise. My whole thing is it's the food we eat, because I can remember my children that are in their 50s, when I would see on the playground, there weren't tons of obese children on that playground. There was maybe one child who probably did have a glandular defect. And then all the rest of the kids look like kids when I was a kid. We were all skinny. My sister was a fat kid who had a glandular thing. So I believe that exists. Don't jump me. But I think it's what we feed them. It's and how we eat. And right before COVID, I went on keto. Now, a lot of people's heads have just already fallen off because I mentioned that word. I went on keto, but I went from 350 pounds to just under 200. And I wouldn't still be alive today if I hadn't done that. So you will never convince me that I'm not speaking the truth.
Oh, yeah. Food is a big thing, and movement is the other big thing.
Yep. So. Walking. If you can walk and get up and walk. Okay. And the other big thing is, how does Sabrina, a lovely lady, end up running the Tree of Life Inner Guidance? And we're going to go through the 20 psychic profile questions.
So I'm ready to make up some good stories, Nancy Jean.
Oh, good, because nothing kills this interview like someone who says, "Yes, that's happened to me." Well, how?
Yes. Well, whenever you start asking, and I'll answer to the best of my ability with a little ad-libbing here and there.
We're not ad-libbing, we're remembering.
There we go.
When did you first realize you had psychic abilities or special abilities?
Well, the thing that I remember the most, because, I guess I just wasn't really paying attention as a kid. Well, I did always know. I grew up with my grandmother and great grandmother raised me, and I always knew when they were lying to me. So I always did know that. So I have a really good bullshit radar, if I may say that out loud.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that I still remember this to this day, this was 40 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
And I was working at a restaurant, and I can't remember the first thing that happened, but I had mentioned to the manager just in passing about a person. This person is XYZ.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember the first thing, but I remember the second two things. There were three things in a row that happened. And whatever I said was exactly what happened. And the manager just kind of looked at me. And then the next thing that happened is we threw this birthday party for this young man, and he was celebrating his 21st birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to the manager, I said, that kid's a liar. And he just looked at me, and I said, He's a liar. Well, we threw this whole 21st birthday party for him. A week or two later, his mother came in and said, he's not 21. He just turned 19.
Oh, wow.
And then the manager looks at me, and then one more thing happened. There's this waitress there, and her name was Linny. And I remember this, and I looked at Danny, the manager, and I said, she's a thief. They caught her stealing wine glasses. So I'm very, very claircognizant. I just know things. I don't necessarily get visions. But I will just know something, and it will come out of the clear blue sky, and then I'll act on it most often. And then people will say, well, why are you doing that? I said, I don't know, but I'm supposed to. I'm supposed to do this. I'm going to do this. And the why will be revealed in time. So that's kind of how it all started. And I've got, y'all call them hits. I get just knowingness. I just know things.
Yeah, I know things too. I'm claircognizant, and it's kind of hard to explain to people because, especially, I used to work around a lot of lawyers, and they want facts, proof. Bring me the document, bring me the proof, and I used to just have to say, take it on my word. And the ones who did, I arranged a huge event in Dallas in 2005, and it was in Obama, Harry Reid, and Joe Biden all spoke at this one event, and it was the first major Democratic event since Kennedy had been assassinated in Dallas. I mean, Democrats were not putting themselves out on the line, let me tell you. So,
especially in Texas, might I say?
No, it was in Dallas. I mean, we were almost walking distance to where Kennedy got killed. So everybody was the head of the paid head of the Democratic Party, the Democratic Party chair. He said, oh, nobody's going to come to this. But these lawyers really they knew they were going to have all three of them there on that Sunday. They said, we really want to do this. So one of the lawyers called me and said, Nancy, can you arrange this? And I said, yeah. And I sat in a meeting with some Democratic leaders and the lawyers that were putting the money up and a couple of police officers, because I worked with Crime Watch a lot, and they were going to tell us what we needed to do for safety. Because it had been so long since that had a major person in an open space. And we ended up running it. And one of the lawyers that was really behind it, she kept saying, are there going to be at least a few hundred people show up? I said, Jennifer, there's going to be 5,000. And she looked at me like I was nuts because we had 17 days from the day we decided that we knew they were coming to get it all together. And we got it together and it worked. And we had people streaming in from the outer suburbs and everything because Air America was still on the air and they were talking about it. But we had nothing in the newspapers. None of the local TV stations would touch it.
Wow. And we're very afraid to.
No, they're very Republican, trust me. Yes.
Bless their hearts.
Anyway, but that's the time after that when I told Jennifer it was going to be 5,000 people and she kept watching all the people file into this park. She went, holy crap. And when we got the police count, it was around 5,000 people had come to it. And she said, how did you know? And I said, I just knew when I heard what the event was going to be, we'd have 5,000 people. And I had no idea how the hell it would have worked. So,
right. I get that because sometimes you just know.
Did you have experiences as a child other than your grandmother who you were nailing all the time?
Well, I had a weird childhood because I was raised by my grandmother and my great grandmother. My mother was semi in the picture. She left me with my grandmother and great grandmother when I was 2, so she could take a job in Washington, D.C. This was in Pennsylvania, so it was like a 4-hour drive, so it wasn't that bad. And then my father, I met him for the first time when I was 16, and so he doesn't even count. He never counted, but I was always very close to cats.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more, I mean, I don't have children. I've never wanted children. Not that there's anything wrong with having them, but it just wasn't for me. But I think, to be honest, Nancy Jean, I think I've blocked a lot of my childhood and
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, it was okay. When you're a kid, you don't know any better. You don't
Right.
know any better that the way you're treated is not the way everybody was treated. Do you know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? And years later, I still have a few high school friends, and my one friend said that she never told me this until now, years after the fact. She said that she used to go home and ask her mother and father why my family was so mean to me.
Mm-hmm.
When you're a kid, you don't in one ear and out the other. But
Mm-hmm.
looking back, I think I just don't remember a whole lot because maybe I didn't want to.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my way of kind of getting through it all. And I left at 18. They gave me an alarm clock and luggage for graduation.
Mm-hmm.
Time to leave. I got the hint and away I went. So
I understand. No, I grew up in a more nuclear family, but I mean, it might have been better. Well, no, knowing one of my grandmothers, it would not have been better to be raised by her. But siblings are their own set of problems too.
right. Well, I'm an only child,
Well,
so
I gathered as much
yeah.
since you talk about the others. Okay, well that's great. And how did well, you told us your story of working in the restaurant and really seeing a lot of stuff around you. How did people around you react when you shared your experiences?
Um, and I was thinking that you might ask me some things like this, and I was thinking back over the years. I mean, a lot of different people just offhanded remarks. Well, what are you, psychic or something? And they used to call me Cassandra. And this
Mm-hmm.
was recent Cassandra, like a couple years ago. They're like,
Mm.
what are you, Cassandra? I said, I guess I am. But if you'd listened to me the first time around, you wouldn't have done that because I knew. But, you know, I kind of for a long time traveled. My group of people were astrologers. I
Mm-hmm.
knew astrology first. That's what I first studied.
Mm-hmm.
And tarot readers and crystals and psychics. And,
Mm-hmm.
I'm the one that got into the runes or other people around me really didn't. But
Where
I've
did you
always
grow
kind of
up?
been.
You grew up in Pennsylvania. Did you know those people in Pennsylvania?
No, I left when I was 18.
Right.
I cashed in $350 worth of savings bonds and said, y'all can kiss my ass goodbye. And
Mm-hmm.
I moved to New England.
Oh,
So this
okay.
was in New England. So
Okay.
Pennsylvania, once I left Pennsylvania, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I was done. I was done.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was all in New England. And this was the Seacoast Astrological Association. I don't think it's still there, but some of the same people
That's
are
how
around.
you know Dorothy.
Yes, that's how I know Dottie. Yes, I know her as Dottie.
Mm-hmm.
So her and I went to the Seacoast YMCA together. We were both friends with Kim Rogers Gallagher. I don't even know where she is. She wrote a couple books
Mm-hmm.
on astrology. And yes, I know Dottie from Kitty Spitzer, who I took astrology stuff with and tarot.
Mm-hmm.
So it was that group of people that it's a small world, Nancy Jean. So it was that group of people that I was around, and then I don't know what happened. I started my first fitness business in 93 or 93, I think it was. And
Mm-hmm.
I just morphed in a different direction and I wasn't teaching there anymore. And even though I've always been kind of into this stuff, it just really kind of came back full blast about 2 years ago. And I mean full blast.
Okay. Well, did you seek training? You said you did studied astrology, and it's tell you guys, I'm a little older, I'm sure, than Sabrina, but when um, I was young, you got a deck and you just played with it. You figured it out. I didn't come from a long line of people that read cards, but everybody's house had a Ouija board. It had a set of tarot cards. I mean, they were around. And I grew up in a very Catholic environment. So that's why I was asking, because when as an adult, I moved to the South, and trust me, it's a whole nother ball of wax down here about how accepting they are.
As far as training, well, like I said, I was in this group from the Seacoast Astrological Association, and I kind of started all this by default. And Kim Rogers is the one that was an astrologer at the time, and we both worked at the YMCA. I taught fitness, and she worked the desk. And she kept asking me, she says, I want your birth information. I want to do your astrology chart. And I kept forgetting about it because it wasn't on my radar. And I said, well, whatever you find out, you're going to find out why I don't get along with who I'm supposed to get along with, because it's going to show up. So I finally got my birth data. She finally did my chart. And that's kind of how it piqued my interest. And then I was part of the Astrological Association, the SAA, and they would do a conference every year. So I did all the dubbing for the conferences and the labeling of the cassette tapes.
Yeah.
That's how long ago this was.
Okay, guys, now we know what period we're talking about.
Yeah. Yes. So I got to listen to all the lectures, and because I dubbed all the tapes that they were selling and labeled them, I also got the cassette tape. So that's how I started listening to the lectures. And my friend Kitty did a tarot class, and I found my notebook. Now you're really going to know how long ago this was. I found my tarot notebook from her class from 1997. I still have it. I still have her laminated cheat sheet that she made for us. She's passed away now, which is unfortunate. But so I guess I have taken quite a bit of training. And what's so interesting is a lot of this made no sense back then. And then, like I said, about 2 years ago, I mean, it just all hit me right in the face like a ton of bricks. I was looking at a Facebook group, and it was the name of the group is Screw It, Let's Talk Astrology. That's literally the name of the group. And a couple people threw charts up, and I looked at them and I went, boom, 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 bang, bing, ba, type, send. And they came back and they're like, oh my God, how did you know that? I said, I have no idea. But, and then tarot cards, I got them out again I have no idea why. And I'm just putting the cards down, or I'd lay down 3 cards talking about something with somebody, and I'm like, da da ba 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 ba, and they're like, you're right. I said, yay, go me. But I guess it's just time. It's my time to do this, and I'm a member of another astrological association that has workshops, and I think it's great to take trainings, but there's also comes a point where, and I've done this with fitness, I stopped taking Pilates trainings because I'm like, all right, I've already done something like that, and you kind of get trained out. You're kind of like, okay, I have to do my own thing. So I will continue to learn because I think it's fun and I'm really nosy, but I think a formal course of some sort is good for anybody to take in something you want to specialize in.
It sort of helps you organize the information. And I teach tarot. And what I want to teach people is enough basics that they can look at a card and they know the symbols and they know the numbers and they know the suits. And then they can extrapolate out what they see, because that's how I read. But I think it's also what you said. You found your old worksheets from way back when. I give out a lot of worksheets, and I tell people, hold on to those worksheets until you feel comfortable enough with what you're doing to feel free. And anyway, I totally agree with you. So, and I think people will tell me, oh, I have a certification in this and I've done a da 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 da. And I go, what do you do? There's a woman I read a couple weeks ago who's created a whole spiritual room in her house, and she got all the singing bowls to make all the sounds. I said, do you play them? No. By the way,
Yeah.
Dorothy tells me that the SAA shut down in 2020.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
So
that's so funny. The SAA and is she, if Dottie's in the chat, hi
she's in
Dottie.
the chat.
This is
She's told me
crazy.
I'm going to be there if you're doing Sabrina.
Oh my God, Dottie, I never believed I'd be doing this. It's almost embarrassing.
No, it's not. That's why I thought about you when I was reading these books, because there's so many women and men that are reaching this age, and all of a sudden this whole world's waking up to them. And that's exactly what's happening to the people in these books, and also the people around them that go, oh my God, that really does work, or we are like that.
But one of the craziest things that happened, that I look back when I found this notebook from Kitty. Dottie knows Kitty also. So when I found that notebook and all my notes, and I started to remember the things that Kitty was talking about when she was teaching tarot. Mm-hmm. And I learned on Rider-Waite and Hanson Roberts, which are very similar. And I think everybody should learn Rider-Waite. I don't care what you learn the traditional and then take it from there. But one of the things, and it's funny now, Kitty was going on and on about the pictures and, like in the Fool, what he's wearing. And he's, got this, flowery robe on, and he doesn't really have on walking shoes, but he's ready to step off the cliff, and the sun is out and the mountains are this. And I'm like, who cares? What does it mean? Now I'm designing a tarot deck, and I'm even getting deeper into what all that means, because it is going to be based off of Rider-Waite. Mm-hmm. But I just remember thinking, what does all this have to do with anything? And then a few months ago, I did a lecture on tarot imagery for Susan Lynn, mm-hmm. On her channel for her members. And it was fascinating getting, the same tarot card and like lining up 5 different images. And it really changes the meaning and the flavor of the whole card. But anyway, I got off on a tangent. Sorry about that.
Well, that's one of the things I learned when I taught tarot. The first class people, I have this deck I really, really love. And I'd go, okay, bring it. And after the second week, I said, we can't do this. Everybody, and I bought them their own little teeny tiny Rider-Waite deck. And I said, everybody uses the same cards so that we're not wasting a lot of time. Because honest to God, these women were coming in with decks I didn't know what the hell they were. And I'd been reading cards since I was 12.
Yeah, the 5 of dandelions. What the hell does that mean?
Well, it means something. If you study that deck and certain decks, that's why I'll tell people I'm going to pull this deck to read for you. And I have a tarot deck that's bunnies, and I use these a lot when I do political tarot on Sunday, because who can hate what bunnies say?
Well, there is that. We need something soft and furry around politics these days.
Oh God,
there sure isn't anything.
We've hit a sea change, and I will announce this. And this is nothing to do with. It's got something to do with your journey. I have a friend who he was one of those people all the way back into the 60s. He was going to all of the big speakers that were going around the country. He went to all their things. He had access to people I only wish I'd been able to see. And he knows this stuff. And he's died 3 times and come back. And last time he was kicking and screaming. He did not want to come back. He wanted to stay on the other side. And he said, why won't they let me die? And I said, because you're not done yet.
Yeah.
And I've had to listen to him through the whole of the dumpster fire we've been living in, because his uncle was one of the few people who sued Trump successfully. And his father's a very wealthy man in New York. And he said, I told you, and every time he wanted to talk about that, he'd talk about that story. And I'd say, yeah, I know. And I said, but everybody, it's going to take that long. And then he'd call me up and he'd go, I don't know how you can live with today. Look, they're doing da, 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 da. And I said, call me back in 24 hours and tell me if any of that's true. Anyway, eventually he would send me stuff, and I don't even look at that crap anymore. And I said, I refuse to dwell in the negative. I continue to see that this has gone away. So anyway, he called me last week and he said, I haven't had my Nancy fix recently. And I said, what's going on? And he said, I woke up this morning and I realized you're right. And I went, well, that's always something you want to hear, right?
Of course. Thank you for calling and telling me.
I said, right about what? And he said, they are going away and they're going to fall so spectacularly that no one can miss how stupid, ignorant, and overbearing this was on us. And he said, and we're going to have to pick up the pieces. And I said, yes, because people let it happen. And I have a whole lot of feelings deeply about it. But anyway, when I told my kids who know this man very well, they know him so well that if I'm going to go see the guy, they won't come with me because they don't
want to hear it.
Kind of, I know this guy. And they were like, you're kidding me. And Casey said, it is going to be over then. And I said, yeah, I keep saying that to all of y'all around me and nobody listens. What's the deal? And when you said that they called you Cassandra.
Yeah.
Cassandra was telling everybody the truth and nobody listened to it. Right.
Correct. Yep.
So when I ran a company called Ruddle Consulting that did political consulting, there was lots of times when I told my partner, we need to name this Cassandra Consulting. We're telling them and they're not following. Okay. How do you tell? Okay. What's the best advice a teacher or a mentor or someone you looked up to gave you on your path that really kind of helped push you in the right direction?
Well, I will say, and this goes back to Kitty. I think she's also listening from across the veil. She's probably equally as shocked. And this this has to do with starting a business because this is, this is my third business. My other two are still going. The best advice I was ever given as far as starting a business, plan on spending twice as much time and twice as much money as anticipated. Right. And that has proven true no matter what. And because I've been in the fitness industry for 40 years, teacher, trainer, and all that stuff, and Pilates now for 25. I get a lot of people that ask me, what should I do about XYZ, or I'm opening a new place. What advice? That's the exact piece of advice I give. Twice as much time, twice as much money. And you will, the other thing is, and this is Sabrina advice, I tell them, you will never work harder for anybody else than you work for yourself. So don't think that you're going to be on easy street when you want to be self-employed because you want to be your own boss and you want all the money. You're going to work your butt off.
That's right.
When you work for yourself.
That's right. It's the truth, because you are the one who's responsible. I also found out I'm the only boss I can really work for.
Well, I always say that I'm an amazing contractor as long as I'm contracted. I'm a lousy employee.
Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, I will do the job, but when I say, well, can I have Monday off and work Saturday instead? Well, they're like, well, we can't do that. I'm like, why? It's 8 hours. What do you care what day I put the 8 hours in? And so, yeah, but I pretty much decided after 2025, I'm like, I'm done working for other people completely. I would take part-time jobs, but I've been successfully self-employed since 93. So,
very good.
I would do other stuff in between, but yeah.
Okay. How do you tell the difference within yourself between a psychic impression and what's your imagination?
I think that the psychic impressions just come out of the clear blue sky. They just like boom. And when it's you trying to find a psychic impression, you have to dig too deep. or you have to look too hard. I think a psychic impression just comes out of nowhere sometimes. You're not even thinking about it or worrying about it. And I can see where some people would have difficulty knowing what is what, but a lot of times I'll just say, this is going to play out, and then I'll know if I can just be patient enough to wait. But I think psychic stuff just comes, and if you're trying too hard to find something psychic, it probably isn't.
Yeah, that's very true. Okay. And okay, have there been moments when you really doubted yourself and said, and how did you push through that?
Well, I think everybody, no matter how confident and fantastic you are about certain things, will have self-doubt. And I think what it is I remember when I was getting ready to open my first Pilates studio, and this was 2003. And I just, because it's mainly women, even though Pilates was designed for men by a man, it wound up being women doing it. But when I was getting ready to open that studio, one of the things that I thought in my head was, Sabrina, you're going to be dealing with, by and large, women. You absolutely cannot say these derogatory jokes about yourself. For example, Robin Williams was kind of a self-deprecating, you know the word I can't get out of my mouth right now. Thank you very much. And women, I think, are unbelievably hard on themselves. It's ridiculous. You look in the mirror and you pick out every single thing that's wrong. And instead of looking in the mirror and saying, oh my goodness, I get another chance, I get another day, lucky me. And I have fresh water to wash my face and brush my teeth with, and I have clothes on my back and a breakfast. But what I thought to myself when I was opening this studio, I said, Sabrina, you cannot allow any negative self-talk in this studio. I forbid it. But then, because I do try my best to practice what I preach, I think that makes you authentic. I had to stop any jokes about, like when someone say, oh, that's a nice shirt. Oh, this old rag. Some people will talk that way. So I trained myself out of all that negative talk. And I have probably spent the last 10 or 20 years really paying attention to my thought process, what I'm thinking in my head. Is it positive? Is it negative? Because thoughts become things. And if you are thinking all this negative stuff, like, a great example of how thoughts become things, if you're really pissed off at somebody and you're doing something like you're chopping vegetables and you're thinking about how angry you are at a situation, I can almost guarantee you're going to cut yourself. So, I trained myself out of so much negativity. And I mean, I got plenty of it as a kid growing up. And then it's just taken time. It's just taken a lot of time. And, we all have the power to pick and choose what we think about. So if you're thinking bad things about yourself, like, oh, I can't do it, or I don't know how, or this, you have to train yourself out of that and say, I can do this. I'm not sure how, but I'm going to do it. Show me the way. And you kind of throw it up in the air. And one of the other things that I find that, this was not an easy thing. I mean, this took years, and I still practice this, is I'll do things and I'll look back and I'll say, I don't know why I did that. There must have been a reason. And I find myself always saying, well, I trust myself, and I know that I did or said that for a reason. And I don't remember why right now, but it will surface, and it always does. So I think self-doubt, you have to work on that. That's an inside job.
That's what shadow work's about.
Yeah.
I keep telling people, and it is right. I always had trouble taking compliments, even if I did have on a really nice looking top or whatever. I wouldn't say, "Oh, this old rag," but I would almost be dismissive of it. Well, if you want to cure yourself of that, dye your hair purple.
Okay.
Because you can't say, "Oh, my hair is purple." Like, "Oh, that happened." I mean,
how did that happen?
And really, dyeing my hair purple made me have to take responsibility for the actions I was taking for at least that part of what was outside of me. And I dyed my hair purple the day that Uranus went into my sun sign.
You're a Taurus.
Mm-hmm.
Of course you are.
Yeah, and I was talking with another astrologer, and he goes, "That's one of the most Uranian things I think that you could ever do." Because
if you look at a person's rising sign, and if they have Uranus in the first, they change their hair all the time. They're always changing their hair color. Mm-hmm. I have a friend who Dottie knows, as a matter of fact. She's in Fitchburg, Massachusetts. And I haven't seen her for a while. And when I haven't seen her for a while, I say, "Well, what color is your hair now? Or what have you done to your hair?" She has Uranus and Leo in the first. She's Cancer rising. But that is very Uranian, that like sudden, my hair is now blue.
and I liked it. If I put in a semi-permanent, so at 10 washes and it's gone. But my hair is snow white. I mean, it is snow white.
Oh, but purple's fun.
Oh, purple's fun. Yeah, purple. And I was talking to a psychic friend of mine, and he goes, "How did your hairdresser know?" And he said, What did my hairdresser? That's exactly the shade your aura is. Okay, fine. I told Carl. He said, "It was what was in the box." Anyway.
Well, we know better.
I know, we know better. Sabrina, how do you protect your own energy?
So it's so funny. It's Kitty again coming through. She's really coming through today. A lot of this stuff I got from her. So, one of the things that I will do when I'm going into a situation where I'm not, I don't know how it's going to go, or I know it could potentially be ugly. Mm-hmm. I picture myself in a cylinder. Mm-hmm. In a cylinder of white light, mm-hmm. and it's mirrored. Okay, all around it is mirrored. Okay, and how I'll do the cylinder is whether I'm sitting, standing, or I'll do it as I'm going into a building if I feel like, oh boy, something's going on mm-hmm. here. So I kind of spin it. I spin the light, so it's kind of like this crystalline, spiraling, sparkly light of a cylinder. It's mirrored on the outside because no matter what they say or do, reflects off me and back to you. That's where I got that from. Mm-hmm. And then if I think it's going to be an ugly situation, you guys are all going to think I'm a horrible person, but I will spike it. Meaning, oh, no. Like, the dog collars with the spikes.
Yeah, they're going to come after me. I'm going to protect myself.
But yeah, so I'll spin that cylinder, I'll mirror it, and then I'll spike it, and then mm-hmm. I'll go in. And sometimes you can these situations. I just literally had one this morning, and I'm trying to say, well, you know what? This is this person's problem. It's not mine. Because when people are ugly and nasty, it's usually them. It's not you. But that's one of the things that I will do if I know that I'm going to need protection.
Good. And okay, now we're going into your wisdom and insights. You're going to share. This is every bit as long as the other ones. Do you think psychic abilities are innate, and can anyone develop them?
Well, everybody seems to think that. And, a lot of the talk is, as kids, you have all the psychic abilities because you're open. Mm-hmm. You haven't had life shut you down, close you down, mm-hmm. change your ideology, mm-hmm. your belief systems. What I would say on that is I would say I do think that some people are more predisposed to psychic ability than others. And then sometimes you don't have a choice. I mean, sometimes it just shows up and you're like, well, where did that come from? You know, and then it, you know, keeps multiplying, and then you either stuff it down, which is what a lot of society would expect you to do, or you go with it and you say, okay, wow, where did that come from? And now what do you want me to do? So I think there are people that are more predisposed to it than others. And I think a lot of people stuff it down. And then I think some people aren't going to go down that road no matter what happens.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Right. You could have the fool walk off the card and hit him in the chin and say, I really do exist. And they'd go, no, you don't.
We have a whole lot of that going on right now.
Yeah.
That's another show.
What signs do you think, have you been around people when they're starting to wake up gifted? And what signs do they feel?
When they first start to wake up gifts wise?
If their gifts start showing up, or even your own experience when your own gifts started showing up. Because change is hard, guys.
Well, especially if you're a fixed sign like Taurus. Taurus is the most fixed sign of the zodiac.
I know.
I love Taurus. Nancy Jean, I'm Taurus rising. I love Taurus. So
I love Taurus, and I came in who I was, and nobody was going to tell me I wasn't. So
that's right.
And that makes for a different kind of childhood. It's okay.
Yeah, I had one of them. As far as when you're waking up to your psychic gifts, I think that if you're already knowing that you're waking up to these gifts, that is like the biggest hint in the universe that, hey, hello, you're supposed to do something with these. You know, mine have always been there. It's just I would get way too busy with work and doing other things, and that I wouldn't pay attention, or I'd get a hit, you know, or whatever they call it. I would get this information and I wouldn't listen to it because I was too busy with work or something. Then I'd look back and say, oh, you knew that.
It's called surviving and adulting.
Yes. And that's a great word, Nancy Jean, adulting. I think that all of a sudden when people become adults, they take on the expectations of others as far as behaviors go. And I think some of that is good, but I also think that who are you to decide what the norm is? So that's a very Uranian remark.
What's the most powerful reading you've ever done that you could kind of talk about? You know, this is an experience I had just recently. And I think if there's any other readers in the chat, which I'm sure there are, this is something that I'd like to bring up just because it really kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. So I was reading with another person, and you know, I always like the other person to go first because you go first and I'm going to back you up, because I literally pay attention to all the cards that somebody else throws because I'm taking in that information. So when I put cards down, it's going to be a combined effort, so to speak. So as you know, Nancy Jean, sometimes when you put cards down, they aren't things that you want to say out loud. Yes.
Yes. I do that. So you get the information and you're looking and you're like, oh, how am I going to say this? How am I going to say this nicely? And this person asked this question in front of, 30, 40, however many people are in the chat, and you have to answer them. So the other reader went first, and I guess this was not a new question, and I'm not a believer in asking the cards the same question over and over again. I was taught that is a no-no. But at any rate, the other reader went, and I put the cards down, and I'm looking at the cards, and I'm like, oh, this person is not doing well at all. They are really struggling. So I'm like, and they were all reversed. So that all three of them, boom, boom, boom. And I always say I don't read reversals, but yes, I do.
I read reverses.
And reversals give you a lot of clues. And
yeah.
So I just remember kind of pussyfooting around those cards a little bit. And then no sooner did I do that pussyfooting than the person that we were reading for said verbatim what the cards said. And that was really profound to me because it also caused me to give my little quote unquote, what's the word that you say before you're, I can't think of it, but anyway, my, I say this before I do a reading. I say, I am going to tell you what the cards say, for better or worse.
Right.
I'm going to be kind. I'm going to be polite. But if the cards are saying you're being an absolute jerk and you need to fix it, it's you, then I'm going to tell you that. That wasn't the case in this reading. The case of this reading was a work-oriented question. But, you know, that was profound to me because I was like, you have to say the cards are telling you like it is.
Well, no, I have Addie as my guide. She's always on my right side. And I'll just get a hit in the back of the head that says, read the damn cards.
I hope I don't have to get hit over the head, but I might.
No, she doesn't hit hard. She just hits enough so I know. What advice would you give to someone who's just starting to explore their gifts?
I would say the first piece of advice that I should probably take myself is that you need some stillness. You need some stillness to find and to know what's going on, because I, as a person, I'm busy. I like being busy. And to clarify that, I have 6 modalities in Capricorn. Okay.
Oh,
I'm
God,
busy.
yeah.
I wrote the book on busy.
Yeah.
But, and what I've discovered through this journey of the last couple years, transitioning into starting this whatever I'm doing, I couldn't wait until last summer when I went back to a different state where I live at part-time. And I was looking forward to having more time to like silence, you know, so I could have time to think. Because if you're too busy, too running around, and no matter how much of a reader you are and you want to be on YouTube all the time, you need stillness. You need to get away from all that to kind of cleanse your mind, so you can get hits and ideas and things will start to come to you. But that would be the first thing I would say, is make sure you're finding some stillness. So the universe or your angels, your guides, your whoever you refer to speaks to you, because if you have monkey mind, they're not going to get through. So
that's a disservice to people if you're putting yourself out. Like, I'm taking clients. If you want to go be crazy in the corner by yourself.
Yeah. Or better yet, don't even be crazy.
That's true.
Because that's another mind control thing. And I think that one of the things, and I'm still working on it, it's a never ending project, is mind control. You can think whatever you want to think. It's your mind. It's right. They're your thoughts.
Because
control
you think
them. Yeah, control them, or you're going to ruin your insides, which in turn will ruin your outsides.
Because I think it doesn't make it real. You know, because I want to think things are this, so that doesn't going to make it real. And when I'm looking past the obvious points, that's kind of delusional for you to see it that way. And you just have to own up with your own choices, what you do.
Yeah.
How can someone find a trustworthy psychic community or mentor?
Well, here's YouTube. There you go. I think that we all have different energy. Okay. I am like this. I'm like the Energizer Bunny. I'm not for everyone. And I know that. So I think that one good way that you can do right in the privacy or the privacy of your own home is start just watching YouTube channels and different psychics and how their approach works. And this is what I would do. Would you know, when new instructors would come to me and say, well, how do I know what training to take? Or I said, well, the first thing you need to do is start taking other people's sessions, take their classes.
Right.
Because you're not going to be able to make a decision unless you get in there, spend time with them or watch them, and you're going to migrate to your people. You migrate, and then you might find that you migrated to a group that is there to teach you something at that time, and then times change.
Right.
You know, because sometimes people will be put in your life, you know, some are here to stay, some are for a reason, some are for a season, whatever that quote is. But you might find a group of people that boost you up one way to get you up to the next level.
Right.
But unless you get involved somehow with others, you won't know. But you'll be able to make your selection the more you're around different people and say, you know, I thought I liked that person, but after listening to the way they read, they're not for me. Nothing against the person, you know. I don't like really quiet, soft-spoken people like this. You know, that doesn't work for me. You know,
well, that's fine. Okay, and then this is the last question.
Oh darn! I was just having fun, Nancy.
I know. Well, we can talk afterwards. What's the biggest lesson you've learned in your psychic journey?
I think, and this is not easy. I mean, none of the mind control things are easy because it takes a practice, and this all is a practice. I think trusting the universe, trusting your guides, trusting yourself, because the more trust you have with that, it is going to come out of you and others will trust you. And one of the things that's super, super important to me, it's just my chemical makeup, is I want people to trust me. I want people to, you know, I'm funny and goofy and I'll say crazy things. It's just, you know, thank God I'm a Sagittarius that tempers all that Capricorn, or bless all the Capricorns out there, or I'd be a real drag. 7 things in Capricorn. I would be all work and no play. But I'm very concerned with people seeing me as if she says she's going to do something, she's going to do it.
That's right.
And if, well, Sabrina said, blah, 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 they don't go in the back room and say, well, you know, the last time she said something, you know, she lied and blah, 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 blah. I do not want that reputation at all. I want people to believe in me and to believe that I am trying to do the right thing. Sometimes I'm a snippy bitch, but you know, I'm just trying to do, and I want, and trusting the universe, trusting your guides, trusting yourself, helps to build trust so other people will feel that you're a trustworthy person. Right. I think that's the best advice I could give anyone, is start to trust. And it can be difficult. I mean, we're living in cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs times right now. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's true. I mean, we live in a time of madness. And I go all the way back to 49, although I don't remember those years. But, you know, I really appreciate you coming here. And you are very physical and very active. And I'm the kind of laid back reader you probably can't hardly stand, because people say, they say, I love coming to you because you're so quiet. You're so
well. You have a very different. We're similar in a lot of ways. That's because you're Taurus. I'm Taurus rising. I get that, the calmness. But I'm just, it's how I've always been. But you know, for someone who's very soft and very sweet, it's not that I wouldn't like the person. It's just that's not who I would migrate to. I migrate to, I guess, the wild Indians. What can I say?
You know, another opening, another show. And I admire that you do Pilates. About 3 or 4 years ago, well, before COVID, they had a thing where you could go to a Pilates thing. Is when I was losing a lot of weight. And I didn't realize how out of coordination my body got. And I got in there, and it was finally, we were about 15 minutes into the come and do the trial thing. Finally, I just sat up on the bench and I looked at the woman running the class and I said, I'm out of here. I mean, that had nothing. It was so unlike anything I would ever do.
Yeah. Well, it's, and that's why I said not everything or every person is for everybody.
And and what works best for me is pedaling a bike and walking, just walking 15 minutes a day. I mean, that keeps it all moving in theory. Right. And I appreciate you so much taking the time to come visit us.
Well, it was very kind of you to ask me to come on here. What fun. And Dorothy is in the chat.
Dorothy's in the chat. When I told Dorothy, I was talking to her because she and I talk about things. And I said, I know someone who knew you as Dottie. And she goes, who? How far back in my past have you delved?
That's funny. Well, Dottie's also Taurus rising with the Capricorn moon, and I'm Taurus rising with the Capricorn moon. So we kind of look alike. If you get a side by
you
side,
do.
We do look alike. Yeah.
Yeah. And so anyway, everybody go visit Sabrina's channel, check out what she does, check out what she's about. She and I will do another show together where we will do readings together.
Crystals.
Huh?
Crystal readings.
Crystal readings, yes.
I think that would be fun.
Yes. And then Dorothy and I found each other. I wrote Dorothy before I was on YouTube, before any of this stuff. I saw her do a thing, and I thought she was so good and practical because I'd been trained in astrology by a very down-to-earth, practical person who is a very person astrologer, not human events or any of that stuff. So I wrote her. And so she would apparently at that point, Dorothy's still here. I won't say anything bad about you, Dorothy. You keep telling me you're still here.
Until we hit the off button.
Until we get the off button. And then boy, your girls. Anyway, she would go through and she'd pick out a new email that showed up in her email. So she wrote me. And she wrote me the day after I had built my first crystal grid for me and my friends just to have some fun prosperity come in. And my first fun prosperity thing was Dorothy offering me a free reading.
Nice. How
yes.
fun.
When Dorothy
what a great idea also.
And people, after the new moon we've just gone through and some of the stuff we have coming up, if you don't know where your chart is, anyway, I have a woman I do life coaching for. I mentor her with the cards and stuff. She runs a major corporation and she's been in the middle of trying to negotiate this deal. I said, you're not going to see it till after the new moon. You're not going to see it till June. She was really hoping if I had that kind of money heading my way, I'd want it sooner rather than later too. But
yeah, no kidding.
Anyway, she called me this morning and she said, oh my God, we rounded a corner. And she said, do a 3-card on this guy. So I read a 3-card on this guy that she's doing business with. And she had one guy in the group that was blocking her from having the deal go through. And he's had a sudden change of heart. And I don't know why. I'm not sure why I didn't like it in the first place. Anyway, and that's what I told when she wrote me, can you do 3 cards? It was in text. I sent her the 3 cards. And she's been reading with me long enough. She's never taken a class, but she knows what it means. She goes, oh my God, the Knight of Coins. I can't believe it. It's going to come through. And she had the Fool in there too. And nice. I said, it's going to work. It's going to work. And so then I called her because I got tired of texting. I hate texting. I called her and I said, where you can talk? And she said, yes. And I said, what did I tell you to wait until after to expect good news? And she said, the new moon. And she said, wasn't that a couple days ago? And I said, yes. When will you listen to me? And then you won't be so surprised.
We'll see where the moon is. Well, there were so many planets in Pisces for so long. Nobody knew whether they were coming or going. And
I know.
I love Pisces.
I raised 2 Pisces children. Oh, they're off in their own little room.
Right. Well, I have a lot of Pisces friends. I have 2 Pisces cats. I do really like Pisces. And, but and I also know how they operate. They want to go hide in the 12th house and shut the door and say, leave me alone. I'm going to hang out here with my psychedelics. And that's fine if that works for them. But, all that Pisces energy, and then boom, it's, shifted to Aries. So now it's time to get something done.
Right. You're in your element, Sabrina. We're in Aries. I'll talk to you. I'll have Sabrina back on. We'll talk about some more. This one a little long, but I had to do my book review at the beginning. And I really encourage you to go look at those books. Encourage you to go look up Sabrina. And bye to everybody. Say bye.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you for coming.